Hey guys, welcome to another breakdown. If you're new to the breakdown, it is just me literally taking your questions and breaking them down into more detail rather than just trying to run through a live and answer them kind of from high points. I really am diving into your questions and trying to thoroughly answer them. Sometimes on the breakdown, we're going to be jumping into just specific topics that we talk about, whether that's target panic, release execution, form, whatever it might be. So mainly just archery specific stuff. And if you like what we've done so far, if you like our MANIML Mindset podcast, if you like our YouTube episodes, films, whatever it is you're finding on Levi Morgan's YouTube channel or thelevimorgan.com, our merch store, our shop collab with Lancaster, whatever that you like. If you do like it and want to see more of it, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'm pretty new to this YouTube game, but evidently that's pretty important. So thank you. Let's dive into the first question on this week's breakdown. This question comes from actually a friend of mine who I compete against, Justin M. Archery 92. His question is, Levi, what is your mindset through judging and shooting a final arrow, gotta have it for the win type situation? And I find myself in this situation a lot. And what Justin means by judge it, for those of you that don't know, I don't get to use a rangefinder in the unknown class. The unknown pro class. We don't use rangefinder. So we are literally judging the distance to the target. And that is one of the hardest parts of our game. And so normally the 10 ring is about a 5-inch ring. The 12 will sit in the lower corner that I normally shoot at, the lower corner. And then it's an 8 ring and a 5 ring after that. So if I hit below that 12, it's a terrible thing. I don't want to be in the 8 ring. If I miss the 12, I want to be a 10. So I'm always living on the high side. If you play golf, the 12 ring is like a birdie. The 10 ring is like a par. And the 8 and 5 is like bogey, double bogey. So I want to be a 12 or at least a 10. So I'm playing that high side of that 12, the safe side. So in a gotta win type situation, safe goes out the window, right? I'm trying to hit the center of that 12. The 10 doesn't matter. The 8 doesn't matter. It does me no good to hit a 10 ring. It does me no good to hit anything but the bonus ring, whether I'm shooting at a 14 or a 12. Nothing else matters. And so sometimes when I'm judging the distance to that target, I'm either, because it's very hard for me to aim high, I aim right at what I want to hit, and I play that safety net into my number. So if I think it's 40 yards, I might shoot it for 40 and a half, maybe 41. And that if I'm right, I still might clip the top of the 12. And if it's 41, I'm going to mash it. So that's kind of how I play that safety net. So in that situation, gotta win, tournament's on the line, I am playing the exact number I think it is, no safety net in the number, no safety net in my aim. I'm aiming straight up. And he said, what is my mindset through that? So maybe I answered too much of that question, but my mindset there is once I have that information, I just make a decision at that point where, because in that moment, it starts to get really heavy. Because you've shot all weekend, maybe all year, maybe it's a shooter of the year arrow, maybe your entire season, maybe it's the world championship. It's what I faced with this year, where my entire season was riding on one shot. And if you let that sink in too much and start thinking about the weight of that arrow, it'll crush you. Like it'll own you, and you will choke, like I've seen so many people do in that situation. I mean, nobody can handle that type of pressure if you don't have a very strong mental approach. That's where the MANIML mindset was born, was from that moment that crushes people. Whether it's the bull of your dreams, the buck of your dreams, a world championship, a job interview, whatever it is, in those moments where people just fail because they're focusing on everything that could go wrong. So in that moment, when I failed in the past, and how I learned through that was I started thinking, if I miss this, I lose. All my work went out the window. Everybody's going to be watching. All these thoughts start to creep in because that's just your human nature, is to start latching a hold to all the negative. So you, in that moment, as soon as you start to feel those thoughts, I instantly start shutting them out and vetting those thoughts. And I'm replacing them with, I'm going to crush this 12. I'm going to win it all. Those types of thoughts. Make a strong shot. All the thoughts that replace that. And instantly you start to feel yourself pull out of that negative feel, that negative emotion that you're feeling. And you almost have to counter those weak negative thoughts with a very aggressive, I'm going to crush this type mentality. Like, not only am I going to hit it, I'm going to hit it inside out, and I'm going to do it stone cold. Like I'm going to do this without even wavering at all. And that's the mentality you have to take to that moment. Just being confident in your setup. And I did that at the Classic this year. I hit 4 out of 5 12s, had to hit the final one to win, and I missed. But I did it so confidently that it didn't shake me at all. Like, you're not going to hit them all in that moment. You're not going to hit every 12 in that moment just because you take a good mindset to it. That's not it. But I didn't lose because I choked. I didn't lose because I made a weak shot. I didn't lose because of my mentality. I just lost because I didn't judge it right. And so you're going to really up your percentages in that moment if you take that mentality to it and play no safety net. So that's the short answer, but I went through a lot of detail to get there. I hope that helped you out. The next question is, when you're saddle hunting, what are you looking for in trees to set up in? So saddle hunting started for me, I guess maybe two or three hunting seasons ago, and I was one of the guys that swore I would never use a saddle. I was like, I won't be caught dead in that silly looking thing. I was old school lock-ons, climbers, whatever, but that's the way I was going to do it. So when I started saddle hunting, it instantly started changing the way I thought. I didn't have to find a perfect tree anymore. I just had to find any tree, pretty much any size that I could get in, and literally just changed what I looked for. Now, the ideal situation with a saddle, I want to find a tree that's got a little bit of lean to it, because I use the Trophy Line Venatic saddle and the Mission platform. And I love the mini sticks with the 8ers, but it's all Trophy Line stuff. But the Mission platform's a little bit bigger than most of your saddle platforms. Still very small compared to lock-ons and stuff that we've used in the past, but I've got a size 13 boot up in a tree, so it's very hard for me to move around on a tiny platform. But ideally, I want to find a tree that kind of leans away. And I'm using that tree with a saddle. One of the things that's so cool about it is I use that tree for cover. I want to be, if I think the deer are coming out in a certain area, I keep the tree between me and the deer. So ideally, if that tree's got a tiny bit of lean away from me, it's perfect, because I can level that saddle and it keeps me, I can lean back, but I can stand on that platform and the tree doesn't get in the way at all because it kind of leans away. But you always want to use the tree for cover, if possible. And that's why you see me and Micah, who's filming, it changed that for us too, because now 9 times out of 10, he's trying to get in a separate tree because we're both going to use trees for cover. And I can just swing as the deer's walking. I can keep the tree between me and the deer. And it has been a game changer. Very, very rarely, if ever, do I get busted off of sight since I've been using a saddle. Because with a lock on, you're kind of stuck out off the tree and you don't have really any options. You're just there. And if they get around and you're skylit, it's over. With a saddle, I'm trying to keep that tree between me and the deer the whole time. And it's really cut down pretty much most, if not all, of those times. So that's really all I'm looking for. I mean, there's really not a lot of trees you can't get in with a saddle. So I'll make anything work, but that's the ideal situation. A tree that's got a little lean away from me, that I can keep between me and the deer at all times. So that answers that question. So that is 3 questions. The 4th question is, where did the MANIML mindset come from, and how do you implement that? I think this is going to kind of go back to Justin's question a minute ago with that gotta win, gotta have it situation. And what's cool is, hang on, this is where the MANIML started. So this quiver was sent to me by a friend years ago, Greg Poole. And he called me the Manimal because of how I attacked big moments in archery tournaments. He just said, "You're a Manimal, dude." And he just kept calling me that. And then people started calling me that. Kind of like Jesse Broadwater got the Freak Show nickname back then because of some amazing things he did in archery. So really, I was just known for that Ricky Bobby mentality where I'm going to win or I'm going to wreck the car trying, but we are not going for second place. You know, like you're either first or you're last. And that's just, it's not true. Obviously, he was high when he said that, but it still is how I have to approach the moment for me personally to have no fear enter my mind. If you start trying to play it where you're like, I would like to win, but third would be cool too, then I feel that fear coming in. It's like a safety, weak feeling for me that I just hate. I hate the way I feel. I did that early on in my career a little, and those drive homes were miserable. Like I couldn't live with myself because I'm like, what if I would have just went for it? Would I have won? Like, who knows what the outcome would have been? Like if I would have just, dug deep and said, let's swing for the fences here. So I just made a decision early on, probably about 19 years old, 20 years old, that I don't care. I don't care about the money. Like, and I didn't have money, but it was just a mentality I took. Like I can't sit here and try to make a $5,000 for third place when first place is $15,000. It's not that big of a difference, but like I just want to win. And like I'm not here to try to guard second or third place. Like so when I got in that situation and I had a chance to win, I was gunning for it. And I lost a lot of tournaments where I would have been second just by shooting at a 14 when I didn't have to have it for second. I could shoot a safe 10 and be second, but I just went for it all. And I've won a lot of tournaments, more than not, by having that aggressive, no fear mentality in those big moments when everybody else is scared. Everybody else was falling away and just going away. I was still had the gas mashed. Like I'm like, how high can we go? And that was always what made me a little different for years was just, let's just say we're on a range and we're shooting and somebody gets to 12 up, 14 up. It's a great solid score. Gets you in the finals every time if you can do that 2 days in a row. Maybe win the tournament. But they would get to that pretty early on, shooting great, better than everybody. And they would hit the brakes and try to protect. And still to this day, a lot of guys do that. They shoot really well and hit a streak, and then they just spend the whole rest of the day and tournament trying to protect that score so that they can make it in the finals and make the podium. My mentality and the MANIML mindset, where it came from and what it is you get a 10-point lead, make it 20. You get a 20-point lead, make it 30. Win by so much, they can't catch you in the finals. And so like this year at the IBO Worlds, I won and didn't even have to hit the final target. And that was, that's what it is. It's just that no fear, no protect. Like we don't protect a lead. We try to make it bigger. If we have 8 points, I see that as a cushion to try to make it 10 points. And if I got 10, that's a cushion to try to make it 12. I don't sit there and hold on and let people chip away until all of a sudden we go into the finals and they're 2 points back. And then they have a chance to beat me. So that's that mindset. And I think you can take that to hunting. You can take that to your job. You can take that to your family where like, hey, let's not just say good enough. Let's not say, I hit a good streak there. Now it's time to rest. It's like, no, like I want to win and I want to dominate. And that's the mindset that I took to archery. That's where that nickname came from. I've never called myself the Manimal. You'll never hear me say that. But it is the way I attacked moments, and it works. And if you feel yourself scared in certain moments, you have to flip that and go 100% in the opposite direction and just go for it. And so that's that whole mindset. And that's how I implemented it. That's how it worked for me. Last question. That was from M. Burns. The past question, the Manimal Mindset question, was from M. Burns 914. The final question from Paul.boss.bhod, which I think is Bowhunter Die. What has been your greatest sacrifice to achieve the goals you have reached so far? Man, that's a long answer. I've sacrificed a lot, pretty much my entire life. Started this at 5 years old, sacrificed a lot of my childhood, practicing because, my dad was a great dad, a great coach, but he was tough. He didn't let me just do it for fun and then drag me around all over the country. We didn't have a lot of money. My dad was a stonemason. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was not like we just had $100,000 a year to take me to archery tournaments all over the country. So, his rule was if I wanted to do this, and it was really my dream to do it, that I had to show him I was willing to work and sacrifice. And so I practiced before school. I practiced after school. When my buddies were at birthday parties and when my buddies were hanging out and sleepovers, I was practicing. And every Saturday and Sunday after church, every Saturday I was shooting 2 tournaments. Every Sunday after church I was shooting. And it was my life for my whole childhood until I got in high school. So I sacrificed a lot of that. It wasn't that I didn't get to be a kid, because I did. And my parents were great parents. And I'm so glad that they taught me at a young age what it takes. If you really have a dream and you want it to come true, there's a lot of sacrifice and a lot of work to be invested in that. And so, but then in high school, I kind of quit shooting altogether, never touched a bow, and just played sports, chased girls, did the whole thing in high school. So that was really kind of a time where I got to just be normal. And then as soon as I graduated high school, though, I had a scholarship to play basketball and baseball, but I would have never made it in either of those sports, and I knew that. And so I just felt like I was going to be wasting 4 years of my life to go do it. So I went straight back into archery. I said, this is what I love. This is what I want to do. And so it became my life again, and I sacrificed every spare minute I had. I was laying rock as a stonemason, and every spare minute I had, every spare dollar I had went into this game. And so all my time at 18 and then until I won my first tournament was spent there. So then I sacrificed to get my first win, pretty much a lifetime other than high school. But then when you start sacrificing, you start building a family. I'm sacrificing my time with my kids. I'm sacrificing my relationship. And what you don't realize and what a lot of people don't see, and I've never talked about, is a switch that has to be flipped in competition. And in this, even this MANIML mindset, that numb robot autopilot version of me that has to come on in those high pressure situations where I don't feel emotion, I don't feel anything, and I just perform and just do what I'm doing and just shoot and just turn everything off. And then come home to my family, flip it back on where I feel emotions, I feel things, I can, I'm a normal person. Well, I did that, but over time, that switch gets harder to turn back off. And so I became kind of emotionally dead, especially in relationships. Like I just couldn't flip it back on. I was just in autopilot. And so you only have so much to give, so much intensity to give to something. And when you dedicate your life to being the best at this, and it's just so much expectation riding on it, I would go into tournaments every weekend, winning. And I forgot how to flip that switch off for my relationships. So I feel like what made me great at one thing really cut my legs out from under me in other things. And so my wife has had to put up with a lot with me because have in the past been very disconnected in that way. So I feel like I've sacrificed the ability to be normal in relationships because I'm numb to, like, I've just trained myself to not feel things, because in those moments where I have to feel and the pressure's high, it's very hard for me to perform if I feel all that. So I've just taught myself how to undo that. Fortunately, with my kids, that switch just flips back off. So I feel like I've sacrificed a lot of those things. Time with my kids, time at home. But I am blessed. This was my dream. This was my doing. And I do feel like God has just really opened the doors for this to be my life. So I'm so thankful for it, but it has been a big sacrifice. And I'm not finished. I still sacrifice all the time. But to do anything great, there's going to be sacrifices that you have to make. And so I've just come to terms with that. And I love my life. I love what I do. Wouldn't change anything about it other than I wish I could take my kids and family along with me everywhere I go. So I think that was 5 questions, and that'll end this breakdown. So keep the questions coming. And again, if you guys like what you see, hit like and subscribe. Appreciate all you guys. Hopefully you learned something this time.